Hi, everyone that's just joining. Thank you so much for joining us today and coming to this webinar. I'm just going to give it a couple of minutes to allow people to get in. But just to introduce myself to begin with, my name is Kate. I work in our implementation team here at Accurx. Today's session is all about Accurx Scribe, just talking about kind of going from first use to full adoption. Got a couple of lovely guest speakers on here as well today, and we're also joined by Miles from Tandem, who's going to go through a demo as well. So yeah, I'll get started in a few minutes. Any questions that you have along the way, please do just feel free to use the Q&A box. There's a fair few people from the team on the line as well who'll be able to answer your questions as we go. We will also leave some time at the end, so hopefully if anything doesn't get answered, there's time to speak with our guest speakers too if you have any specific questions that are directed towards them. So yeah, as I said, I'll give it until 3 minutes past, and then we'll get going because there's a fair bit to get through and want to leave enough time for our guest speakers as well.
Awesome, thanks for that, Kate. I might just take this opportunity really quickly to introduce myself as well. So great to meet you all. My name is Miles. I work in medical operations at Tandem Health, which is the company that powers Accurx Scribe. So I'm a clinician by background. I was a doctor and then left as an EDSHO to change the world of medical note taking and join Tandem. So really excited to show you what we've built today and how we're getting it off the ground.
Thanks, Miles. Great to have you here. Right, I can see that it's slowed down a little bit, so I'm going to just get started. If you have colleagues that haven't been able to join yet, this is already being recorded, so we will share that recording with anyone that was registered, so don't worry if they haven't managed to join just yet. So today's Accurx Scribe webinar, all about, as I mentioned, going from kind of first use to full adoption. So whether you're trying Scribe for the first time or really looking to kind of deepen the use across your practice, hopefully this session will give you what you need and the knowledge that you need to make the most of Scribe in your day-to-day workflows. We're going to hear from two guest speakers. So I'll introduce them in a second. And as I said, we're also joined by Miles, who just introduced himself, and he and I will be going through a short demo shortly. So hopefully this is kind of really ideal for any practices that are new to Scribe, any teams that are aiming to increase Scribe uses if you've already got started, and anyone seeking practical tips and looking to hear and understand a little bit more about the advanced Scribe features that we have. So any questions, as I said, please do just use that Q&A box. Number of colleagues are on the line. They'll be able to help throughout. We also will leave some time at the end to answer questions with our guest speakers. So yeah, huge warm welcome to everyone. Thank you again for joining. And also just want to give a huge shout out to our guest speakers who I'll be handing over to shortly. So we have Dr. Kunal Patel, who's a GP partner at New Road Surgery in Herts and West Essex, and then also joined by Dr. Richard Edwards, GP clinical lead at Gordon Street Surgery in Staffordshire and Stoke-on-Trent. And then Miles just introduced himself. He's part of the medical operations team at Tandem Health and is going to be joining me for the demo. So just before we kind of dive into Scribe and go to the demo, I just kind of want to give a brief summary of essentially the problem that we're trying to solve here. So there's a lot of staff time lost each week to note taking and typing, really putting a lot of pressure on clinicians, and I'm sure none of this is news to anyone on the call today, putting a lot of pressure on clinicians to capture and code detailed patient notes many times a day, on top of all of the other admin and tasks that everyone is facing, obviously just leading to staff burnout, divided attention, meaning that when you're going through those consultations, you're having to look at your screen as opposed to the patient, and then lots of difficult systems. So it's actually estimated that NHS staff spend nearly a third of their day on admin, contributing to that widespread burnout in general practice. Too much admin happening between appointments and also after hours. So capturing comprehensive and quality patient notes really splits the time and attention from talking with and examining the patient that you have during a consultation. And then that cross NHS integration is really hampered by outdated communication processes and inconsistent data capture. So that's essentially the problem that we've been trying to solve by partnering with Tandem and creating Accurx Scribe powered by Tandem. So this is where Accurx Scribe comes in, which is your new AI-powered scribe solution designed to really reduce that administrative burden of clinical documentation by automatically generating clinical notes, listening into patient consultations, or reviewing clinician dictations as well. So cutting the time spent on notes by around 90% by making conversation recording, dictation, and document generation really a lot easier than ever. And you'll see this when we come to the demo in a second. Giving healthcare teams hopefully time focus on the patient and not on your computer screen, and then combining that with our two-way patient messaging and cross NHS communications, so via Accumel. Hopefully this is helping to kind of unblock that time and integrated care. So yeah, some of the benefits there to Accurx Scribe. I just want to show you essentially what it will look like or does look like if you do already have access to Scribe on your toolbar. So it's here to cut that admin time, put the focus back on the patient, and really connect that care. This is what it will look like when you do have access, if you don't already. That microphone icon that will appear on your toolbar, and you may notice that this toolbar is ever so slightly different to what it looked like previously. We're currently rolling out a new look and feel of the toolbar as well, so that will come in line with Scribe when you do get switched on if you aren't already. But hopefully lots of you on the call today already have access to Scribe and are starting to get going. So here, just some of the reasons to use Accurx Scribe. It's really effective, it's safe and assured, and it is fully integrated. What I mean by that is it's integrated with your patient records. So Accurx has a full suite of products working on our deep integration. And Accurx Scribe really builds on this existing integration, seamlessly writing back to the record from the outset. Scribe is built directly into that familiar toolbar that I just showed you, eliminating the need for system hopping or extra logins, and allowing you to save notes directly to the patient record in EMIS and System 1. It allows you to use Scribe on the move. So we recently launched Accurx Mobile. So it's available within our mobile app for teams to utilize the microphone if a desktop isn't available, and on the go to write back to the record after your connection is regained. So once you are then back on your desktop, you'll be able to then edit and adjust that Scribe, and then also save the notes to the record. So with Accurx Mobile, you can transcribe consultations on the go. If you're doing home visits, for instance, really providing an element of flexibility and convenience wherever you are. And then finally, I touched on this earlier, but just those wraparound features. So sitting within the toolbar, you can seamlessly support onward communications to patients via our messaging, and then also other healthcare professionals using Accumel. So it kind of streamlines that work by offering that one-click onward task automation and summarization of notes. So you can send a summary to a patient once you've done that consultation with them, so that they can then clearly see what was discussed and the advice given after that consultation, and then also that onward communication piece with healthcare professionals outside of your organisation using Accumel. Also, just really interested to hear any feedback that you do have. So please do use the Q&A if you want to kind of share your experience so far. Are you enjoying Scribe? What are the main benefits you've seen so far? What are the roles that you're seeing across your practice as well that are kind of picking up Scribe more so? Really keen to hear your thoughts. If you do have any, just pop those in the Q&A, and we will definitely kind of use that and take that on board as we move ahead into the new world of Scribe here. So yeah, any kind of strengths that you've seen of it, any improvements that potentially you'd like to see as well, pop them in the chat. Definitely keen to hear your thoughts. Really quickly then, I just want to kind of highlight here that Scribe is safe, compliant and assured, so fully NHS compliant. We're not recording audio. The AI model isn't being trained either on personal data. So it's fully integrated with our privacy and security by design programme, and in line with NHS governance. We do have some supporting articles that can help you with any of the compliance and kind of clinical safety. So if you are interested, we can share some of those documents, and I'll make sure they go in the follow-up email as well. We will also have a follow-up webinar in a few weeks' time, which is all going to be around clinical safety and governance. So yeah, do look out for the invitation to that as well if you're interested in hearing more on that before you get started. Just before we go into the demo, I just want to highlight some of the kind of new features that we've we've released in Scribe. So we obviously know that you're very busy, and we've kind of listened to the feedback along the way, and we've made some amendments and kind of some feature developments over the last couple of months to upgrade your experience with Accurx Scribe. So top one here being scribing your telephone consultations directly, which was the most recent thing that we've launched. So Scribe now integrates with your system audio, so you can use it directly from your phone call platform. You can also choose your appointment types as well, so making record keeping far easier with face-to-face and telephone consultation options. Lots of new note templates have been released, so pediatric, mental health, physio appointments, dietitian review, medication review, and results review have all been launched, and we all have access to from Scribe as well. New documents, so generating onward conversations with speciality referral and also A&G templates as well. Making adjustments to your generated documents by talking or typing with smart editing. We also have automatic patient details. It's a fairly long list here. I won't go through everything. Automatic patient details, so patient information now automatically pulling into your consultation, giving you much more context. Quick copy and pasting, and then also patient summaries, which you'll soon have access to, so allowing you to send auto-generated consultation summaries directly to patients through Accurx. Other things coming very soon, dictation anywhere, and then also increased personalization. But if in the interest of time, I'm going to hand us over to Miles, who's going to kickstart our demo, and I'm going to play patient.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Kate. Really useful. Right, I'm just going to share my screen.
Perfect.
Okay. Is this a familiar site? Are we seeing EMIS?
Yes.
Awesome. Okay, brilliant. So just to give you a quick idea of the structure of the demo, I'm conscious that some people here will have maybe seen Scribe in action before, some people won't, and people will be sort of have varying levels of familiarity with it. So what we'll do is we'll just do a quick dummy consultation, and for the purposes of time, it's not very complex, although I assure you Scribe can capture much more complex consultations as well. And we're going to do a mix of kind of a walk through the platform and also a few tips and tricks that you might not have used before, just to make it useful for everyone, whether you've used Scribe before or not. We'll go through creating a note, some of the ways you can quickly and powerfully edit the note, some of the downstream documentation that you can really seamlessly create, and then how it all ties in with the Accurx platform and with your EPR, either EMIS or System 1. So to start off, you can see I'm in EMIS and I've got the Accurx toolbar here, and all I need to do to launch Scribe is click the microphone. It's all single sign-on, no extra logins, really simple and easy. I'll just full screen this for clarity here. Cool. So very easy to get started. You can see a big blue start button and your name encouraging you to get going. But before we do that, I'm just going to walk you through a few bits of the platform. You'll see down here, there's a little button that says Encounter Settings. So this template selector here is where all of your different templates will live that we just discussed. I'm on a generic GP note right now, but for different use cases, you might want to consider different templates. And we've also started to introduce templates for sort of allied health professionals that might be working in the surgery for their specific use cases, to try and give everyone like a really seamless workflow and minimize editing time. Also down here, just make sure we've got the right microphone selected, and then we're in consultation type, which is your classic ambient Scribe experience. On the left, we can see all of our Scribe consultations from the last 30 days. And if we were to start this now, it would pop over here. And then if I were to pause it, it would be paused just in that same place right there, and I could come back to it later. Similarly, if I was to Scribe on mobile and pause it or finish it on mobile, I could then come back to my computer and it would be seamlessly synced into this toolbar here. So I'm going to resume the encounter, but before we jump into the demo, first tip and trick, and something that we've learned recently from a lot of our experience in primary care and in secondary care pilots, is that I think a lot of people that come from more traditional dictation software or typing directly expect 100% of the consultation to form the notes, and we work very hard to make sure that that's the case and you can have as natural of an interaction as possible. But I'd really encourage you in the few minutes that you may have between patients, especially if you've got a patient you've seen a few times, maybe they're quite complex, so you've got sort of investigation results that you know are going to need to be mentioned. As you're reading through that story, maybe in the few seconds before the patient comes in, get Scribe started, get it listening, treat it like you've got someone in the room with you who's writing your notes from the get-go, and feel free to just say that information aloud as you're reading it, because it'll be brought into the context of that final note. Similarly, there's a button down here that says add additional text. And you can paste that information in here if you want it to be brought into the context of the notes, say a letter that you've had back from a cardiologist or recent investigations or blood results that you want to be brought into that note. You can paste them in this box and then we'll pull them through for you. So just a little tip to make it a bit easier. Right, I think we can jump into the actual demo bit now. So we have lots of time for Q&A. Kate, are you ready?
Yeah, all good.
Awesome. Okay, so hi. Thanks so much for coming in. My name is Miles. I'm one of the GPs here today. Before we get started, I just want to let you know I'm using an ambient scribe today in my clinic. It's just going to listen to our conversation and help me to write up my note really quickly after we finish so that I can kind of focus on you. Is that okay with you?
Yeah, that's fine with me.
Oh, brilliant. Thanks. I appreciate that. So Kate, can you just tell me a bit about what's brought you in today?
Yeah, I've had a really sore throat for a few days now and just feel really awful, to be honest.
Okay, you've had a sore throat for a few days. Gotcha. Can you tell me a bit more about what's been going on?
Yeah, it started off all right about 3 days ago, just a little bit scratchy, but now it's really, really sore. Hurts every time I swallow. I've been really tired as well and had some fevers. I'm still drinking okay, but I've really just been avoiding food quite a lot.
Okay, thanks. That actually covers a lot of it. Can I just ask, have you had a cough with this at all, or just kind of the fever and fatigue and the sore throat?
No real cough, maybe a bit of a blocked nose early on, but definitely felt really hot and cold, and feel like I've had a bit of a temperature.
Okay, thanks. Has anyone around you, like family, friends, colleagues, anything like that, also been unwell?
Yeah, my flatmate actually had pretty much the same thing last week.
Okay, gotcha. Any other previous medical history I should be aware of?
No, I'm usually pretty healthy. No like long-term problems at all.
Okay, and you don't take any regular medications for anything?
No.
No. Okay. Any allergies to any medications?
Yeah, I'm allergic to penicillin. I had a rash from it a few years ago now.
Okay, gotcha. Um, thanks for that, Kate. That sounds pretty straightforward. Do you mind if I just examine you now quickly? Is that all right?
Yeah, sure, that's fine.
Brilliant, thanks. I'm going to speak my findings aloud for the scribe, but also just so that you have a good idea what's going on and what I'm looking at. So we'll say that looking in your mouth, your tonsils are enlarged and they're a bit erythematous or red on both sides, so bilaterally, but with no kind of exudate that I can see. You've got a midline uvula. And then having a feel of your neck, just feeling your lymph nodes. You've got palpal, tender, cervical lymph nodes bilaterally. And then we'll just do a few observations quickly. So we'll say you've got a temperature of 38, and we'll do your blood pressure, which is normal. It's 120 over 80. You've got a heart rate of 84, a respiratory rate of 16, and oxygen sats of 98% on air. So Kate, looking here at kind of the history and the clinical picture that I'm seeing on the examination, I think what's going on here is probably that you've got a viral tonsillitis, and that's an inflammation of your tonsils in the back of your throat due to a virus.
Okay, so no antibiotics then?
No, I don't think you really need them at this stage. I think this will probably settle on its own. So just paracetamol, ibuprofen, some fluids, and just having a bit of a rest. If things get worse, particularly looking out for persistent temperature that doesn't resolve, difficulty sort of swallowing or drinking, if the pain's getting much worse, or you have a look and one of your tonsils is really swollen, or if it's just not improving in a few days, you can come back or get in touch.
Okay. Yeah, I can do that. I will keep an eye on it.
Awesome. Thanks. Hope you feel better soon.
Thank
Right,
you.
so that was
Later.
very short and simple consultation. But just to show you kind of how the platform works. So I've paused the encounter there. And the reason I've done that rather than finish it immediately is I just want to illustrate at this point, having this pause and resume feature can be really useful for more sensitive consultations. So particularly if you've got safeguarding concerns, there's maybe some wider social stuff that you want to make it into the note, but don't want to kind of verbalize right in front of the patient. You can always wait until they've left and then resume the encounter to give that additional information. But we'll say that for now we're happy. So I'll click finish and create note here. And then the format of this is going to be just a pretty generic medical note that's built for a transfer into EMIS, which is what we'll demonstrate today. So you can see here we've got our consultation type selector. So because I've examined the patient and vocalized my examination findings, it's realized that I've had a face-to-face appointment, but we can also select it manually if we want to. Then we've got our history of sore throat for 3 days, which was initially mild and scratchy, but now quite a bit more painful when swallowing. Associated fever, fatigue, and chills. No significant cough, but a bit of a blocked nose earlier. And avoiding food due to discomfort, but adequately drinking. Flatmate had similar symptoms last week, no previous medical history. We've got our examination here, so we got a heart rate, 84 beats per minute, respiratory rate of 16 breaths per minute with sats to 98%. Tonsils were enlarged and erythematous, no exudate with midline uvula. And then we had our lymph node examination here. This section, SNOMED coded observations, is the observational codes which we currently support coding directly to record. So these will appear as coded observations within EMIS after we transfer our blood pressure and temperature. And then we've got our impression of viral tonsillitis, which is exactly what we said. And then our plan with safety netting advice and the paracetamol, ibuprofen, fluids, and rest. You can see here we've also got the penicillin allergy. So that's the note that's been immediately generated. If we want to make any changes, it's really easy to do that. There are 3 ways. The first way is if it's really quick and simple, you can just type in the box. So I could just write otherwise well, for example. You can also click this little microphone here that'll dictate directly into that box and take advantage of our advanced speech recognition layer with a big medical dictionary, so you should get really accurate dictation results. The most powerful way to edit the note, though, is with this add or adjust button down here, and you'll use your voice to just give it instructions and it'll carry out what you want it to do. So for example, I could say, actually, the patient has a previous medical history of type 2 diabetes, for which they take metformin 500 milligrams BD. So can you add that in? So I can make changes to content there. And then I could also make changes to structure. If, for example, I wanted to bullet point the history, I could say, and can you also bullet point the history, etc. Anything that changes will highlight blue, which this is just done. You can see we've got our type 2 diabetes and metformin. If I wanted to reset the change, I could just click that button there. So that's the note part of it. And this seamlessly saves to the record, but we'll leave that for just a second because I just want to talk through some of the documentation stuff. So you've made your note, but actually say there's a downstream document that we want to create. So maybe I want to make a referral letter. So we'll assume, as best as we can, who this letter should go to. And in this case, it's ENT. So we've got a 3-day history of a sore throat, previous medical history, the assessment, and the question. But again, I can smart edit this. So I could say, actually, can you make this a bit longer? And really, I've just looked through. The patients had, this is their 6th episode of tonsillitis this year. They've had antibiotics 4 times and had to go to A&E once. And I'd like to sort of write this letter to ENT for consideration of a tonsillectomy. So you can see I can make changes to the content of the letter quite clearly here. And similarly, this has access to the transcript. So I could say things like, you know what, can you make this a little bit longer? Or can you make this shorter? Or can you include patient quotes in this? You can see here that now we've got a question of a tonsillectomy. Let's change the section here. And then we've added in the new information I've given here. So really quickly and powerfully, you can edit and change these documents without having to retype or dictate all of them. And this side of documentation creation then ties in with the wider Accurx platform, right? So I could copy this and stick it in a new message to send onwards. Or it also, of course, links in with how you communicate with the patient. So say, for example, I want to just send a message. Obviously, this one's really straightforward. But say maybe I'd had someone come in with chest pain and I'd given them explicit instructions for what to look out for and go to A&E. Or I'd referred them to a certain part of the hospital and I wanted them to get there well. All I need to do is generate this patient message. Then I can click open a new message and we've got a text message ready to go to the patient that I can then send off so they get that information really quickly and clearly. But we won't send that for now to Mr. Bean. Instead, we will pop back to the notes. And then the last thing I'm going to show you is how we then integrate with your EHR. So let's say I'm happy with the note here. You can see we've got these details that have pulled through here, so I know what patient I'm on. And then I'll click Save to Record. It's going to prompt me to confirm that I've got the right patient in. Oops, sorry. So we've got Mr. Bean. I'll click Save to Record. And then basically the flow here will be the same as if you've ever had a colleague edit like a medical note in EMIS when you've been looking at it. So you'll get a little banner here in EMIS that will flag to you that the record's been updated. So if I just click that, you'll see here we've now got our consultation with our observational coding and everything as we discussed. I think that's the main part of the demo. So I'll hand back over to Kate.
Thank you, Miles. That was really great to see. I'm just going to reshare my screen and I'm going to hand us over to our guest speakers. So first of all, we are joined by Dr. Kunal Patel, GP partner at New Road Surgery in Hertfordshire and West Essex. So yeah, thank you so much for joining us. Really looking forward to kind of like hearing how you implemented Scribe within your practice, any insights that you found, and any benefits that you have discovered since implementing it. So yeah, I will hand over to you. Thank you so much for joining.
Thanks, Kate. Firstly, where I was coming from when we started thinking about using Scribe, initially I was actually quite skeptical because my baseline, and we're an EMIS practice for around 14,000 patients, my baseline was my EMIS setup was already quite good. So I was already felt I was quite efficient in terms of my documentation. So part of me was really skeptical in terms of like, why would I want to use Scribe or something else when I feel I'm fairly quick already using synonyms and protocols and those sorts of things on my keyboard being set up like that. But I thought I would obviously give it a whirl and see how it works and how it sort of changes my practice and see whether it actually improves my day-to-day working life. And it's been a resounding success from our point of view. You know, as I said, I started from what I thought was quite a high baseline, but using Scribe, patient consultations now are just so much more patient-centered in terms of I'm actually communicating with the patient rather than thinking about which buttons to type, which letters to type at the time of the consultation, really focusing, looking at the patient, developing a much better rapport with the patients. So from that point of view, it's been fantastic. It's been a game changer because I'm looking at the screen a lot less. I think the other thing that was evident really quickly early on was the quality of the actual medical note keeping. As I said, I thought my note keeping was pretty good, especially as I was using sort of synonyms and protocols, just screen dumping certain phrases and text, which are almost gold standard. But the quality of the note keeping was above and beyond anything I thought it would be. Really good, really efficient. The way the notes are also separated out, because one of my fears was if patients present with multiple problems, which many GPs would recognize, the way the software is able to almost separate the problems out into different paragraphs is fantastic. So it literally allows me to copy and paste different problems into different sections into EMIS, again, making it really quick and efficient on a part of the consultation, which I thought would be very difficult for it to handle. The fact that it obviously codes with SNOMED, the observations like blood pressure and reading that is very helpful as well. I think one of the other aspects of it was the ease of use. The fact that the layout of it was very conducive to us sort of editing. The fact that each section has its own little microphone button, for example, the history, the examination, as Miles showed you, really quickly and seamlessly almost add in to those different sections. The one-click copy is fantastic. And then the other thing then was not only the Scribe aspect of it, but as Miles sort of demonstrated, the advice and guidance, the letters, because these are all the things that add on to the GP consultation length. The fact that with one or two clicks, you can provide the advice, to generate an advice and guidance letter, copy and paste that onto your tasks on email, send it off to your secretaries. You've got a referral letter there as well, if need be. You can just dictate into Tandem, which is great. For example, if I say, please put more emphasis on these symptoms because I want to have an advice and guidance to this particular specialist, it'll come up and regenerate the note within a few seconds. All these incremental gains add up to a much more efficient consultation, which I didn't believe. I was skeptical at the start that this was going to happen. So from my point of view, it's been a real game changer. The other aspect of it was also I think I mentioned before, was the speech to text function, which comes alongside the Scribe, where it's a smart speech to text. So I will easily send a dictated text message. For example, I've got a result saying patient needs to be started on flucloxacillin because their swab result was positive, and I'll do a quick speech to text saying, please can you start these antibiotics, or your swab result is showing a bacteria or Staph aureus. It's a copy and paste it into the text message function, send it by Accurx. And all of these things I find are really saving time in terms of typing it out or sending a note to the receptionist, or even, it's very difficult with GPs, and we're so busy having the headspace, not the temptation to click just I'll make an appointment, an appointment to make another appointment. So you can actually deal with a lot of, sort of grey area things really quickly and efficiently, without saving the need for the patient to make another appointment, which I found was very, very helpful. You mentioned the app. So we're in quite a rural area, so we do quite a few home visits, and taking the app on the home visit has been extremely helpful. So normally I do 1 or 2 visits consecutively in a day, and being able to just go into the patient's house, switch the record function on, come out, sit in my car. I will quickly save it, make sure generate the note, go to the next visit, do that, come back to my desk, having it already typed up pretty much, good to go, straight into the EMIS is a game changer in terms of time saving. And I know you mentioned the new feature, which I haven't tried yet, which is the telephone voice. I mean, I use my usual sort of ITS digital telephone system. I put it on speaker, and even with that, it works fantastically well. Occasionally when the paramedic is on holiday, I draw the short straw and have to do these sort of care home ward rounds. And the first half of the ward round I like to do from my desktop PC, because a lot of it's administrative sort of queries. And I used it with Scribe, literally just loading each patient really quickly, having a 5-second chat about this medication, this, whatever the query is from the carer. I would pause it, go on to the next patient, start a new consultation, again, do the consultation. It would, again, before it was taking the patient details automatically into Scribe, I'd put the initials on, and I'd go through each patient really quickly, just stopping, starting a new consultation. And after I'm off the phone, I'd save each one, generate the note, and just 1 click, save it into the record. In terms of time saving, it was exponential for that half an hour. That would have taken me probably around 45-50 minutes just to type up and document at the same time as the carer would be saying something simple like, oh, Dr. Patel, can we put the paracetamol onto repeat because the patient's using it quite frequently for the arthritis, onto the next one. Just typing that up and not having to do that has been a game changer from that sort of list type work. So yeah, I mean, as I said, all aspects of the Scribe itself, the document creation, the speech to text functioning, which is really helpful. I mean, when I check results now on EMIS, the first thing I have up, apart from the results itself, is speech to text. And I have that on because I almost treat it, and this is what I say to other doctors in the practice now, is I treat it like a house officer. I treat it like someone there in the room with me saying, please repeat the user needs in 2 weeks. The GFI has dropped down slightly. Please can you generate the blood test form on ICE, copy, practice note, off to the reception, who's it depends on your setup, but it gives you an idea of how quick and easy it is then for these sort of for some of these sort of blood test results that require action. It just speeds it up at a rate of knots, really. So yeah, it's been a resounding success, and at the moment, I think there's loads of innovations coming through that are going to help it even further improve our GP's day-to-day life. I think the best thing I can say about it is that I can't honestly see myself ever going back to the synonyms and protocols and everything else that I used to do beforehand. And yeah, I know there was an issue in terms of, I guess one of the questions was, how do you roll it out? I guess the hardest part really is actually getting people to just start using it, because that's the thing. You just need to start using it. You can be skeptical like me. You've got plenty of doctors saying, oh, I'm quick, I can do this, that. Until you start using it, playing around with it, using the different functionalities, then if you can just start to use it, you will easily recognize the advantages and the speed and the efficiency, but not only that, most importantly probably is the quality. That the quality is above and beyond what I would be able to type up and even screen dump with synonyms and different sort of protocols and texts and things. So
amazing, thank you so much. Really useful to hear from you, Kunal. I think there was one question that was directed towards you. I'm just trying to find it. It's from someone anonymous, so I can't say your name, but it was to do with whether or not you came across any resistance from the ICB during the implementation process in terms of like code protection concerns, and how you overcame that, if you did have any concerns from their end.
Yeah, I mean, with regards to the ICB, they were fairly open in our area. I mean, we had a meeting with the DPO, and we also had the difference for data protection impact assessments. I know Accurx provide their own, so it was just about really the practice deciding, for example, their own sort of rules and how we're going to sort of advertise it to patients, what happens to the transcriptions afterwards, and those time frames. So I appreciate that might be specific to each different ICB, but we found our ICB fairly forthcoming with that guide and fairly helpful.
Thank you so much. And yeah, if there are any concerns about kind of clinical safety governance, please do just feel free to reach out to our team. We can support you kind of through that if you are having any queries about that in your practice. Thank you so much, Dr. Kunal. I'm now going to hand us over to Dr. Richard Edwards, who's joining us from Gordon Street Surgery as GP clinical lead there. So again, yeah, thank you so much for joining us, Richard, and please do take it away.
Okay, thank you very much. I know I'm here as a scribe champion, but I've learned so much already. So thank you, Kunal, for some of those tips and Miles as well. As Kate said, I work currently now in Staffordshire, but that was a recent move. And I moved 2 months ago from a System 1 practice where I had everything set up, just like Kunal was just talking about. I could do my consultations with my eyes closed, and I've moved to an EMIS practice, having never used EMIS before. It filled me with dread, but from the very first consultation, I switched the Scribe on, and it's been an absolute lifesaver and game changer, really. It's meant that I've been able to get up and running with EMIS, having no prior experience almost from day one, because the main bulk of the consultations are written for me and get put in. And actually, by looking at what it's done, it's taught me a bit about EMIS and got me up and running. So that's been that's been a real winner for me, and I'm now using it consistently on every consultation, except for the times I kick myself when I've realised halfway through I forgot to press start, which I don't think there's anything that the company can do about that to remind us, because it's blinking annoying if you do it. I've written down the word skeptical as well. I was probably a bit more skeptical of how good it would be at taking 10 minutes worth of chatter and making it into a focused, discrete set of notes. And when I was in my System 1 practice, I did a little bit of work with Tandem, so I had played around with this before. I was amazed at how much of the dross from the consultation it cleverly cuts out and doesn't fill your journal up with unnecessary stuff. How focused the extraction of the relevant clinical stuff is, and how infrequently I have to actually edit the notes before I save them. There are things you want to edit and there are things you need to check, and occasionally it mishears or the patient says something funny that you need to deal with. But it's amazing how I was, my skepticism went almost overnight. It's amazing how accurate and how sort of focused the note taking is, even as Kunal said, in a patient with multiple problems. I've noticed that when you're talking to patients, and of course I echo the same thing, you can just look at the patient and talk to them for the consultation without having to worry about the screen. That's changed the way that I consult, and has made life a lot easier. But sometimes in a consultation, when you're writing the notes at the end, there might have been a couple of trivial points that maybe just slip your memory, or that you'd forgotten about, or you'd given a touch of advice about something, but you don't document it. Scribe's been listening and picks it up, and so if there are several problems, it makes sure they all get picked out, because yeah, sometimes you come to write the notes at the end, or you get distracted and might have forgotten something. So I think that's great. I've learned to talk to it, as Miles was saying. So talking out my examination findings. The more I do that, the less I have to add in at the end. Hopeless at remembering numbers, so it's great to be able to say, "Oh, your blood pressure is 130/72," and it write that down without me needing a post-it note or having to type there and then. I noticed yesterday I'd called a chaperone through, and Scribe picked out that I'd done that, and actually picked out the name of the chaperone, because I said, "This is Amy who's come to chaperone me," and did all of that documentation as well. That I thought was really good, and got me. And then, as we've already heard, I don't think I've dictated a referral letter in the 2 months I've been in this new practice, because I've used Scribe every single time to create my A&G referrals and my referral letters, and any of the private reports and bits like that. I've used the dictate function. I've been really impressed with that. We started using the clinical meeting setting in our clinical meetings, so there's benefits for the practice manager and admin staff as well. That's been really helpful. In terms of rolling out in the practice, because I couldn't stop talking about it, the other doctors who've been here longer than me wanted to know what this thing was I was using, even though they'd got the microphone on their toolbar. They hadn't even bothered to click on it. And after a few coffee breaks where I enthused to death, I was just like, just let me show you, just have a go. And I just did a simple demo, a bit like Miles and Kate did then, and they're all using it now. There's been no kickback at all. So that's great. We haven't touched on the fact that it can cope with other languages as well. That I've moved to a practice here that's slightly different demographic than I was used to, and although my other languages are limited, my colleagues are telling me that if they do a consultation solely in Urdu, it will still pick up and translate into English. And actually, my colleague told me the other day that her Urdu is brilliant, and she got through the consultation and actually learned some vocab from what Scribe had put into the notes afterwards, because they were the words she'd missed when she was talking to the patient in Urdu, because she didn't know those couple of bits of vocab. So education as well. But certainly with my other half, we've done a consultation in French just to practice, and it does it translates it, and it's really very clever. So that's very good. I think they were the main things. I know I'm here today because I've loved using it. It's really changed the way that I do my consultations, and particularly the writing up afterwards is dead quick. I don't have a list of jobs at the end of the surgery, because I've done my referral letters within the 10 minutes usually, because they're so quick to do and task over. And that definitely is a game changer. So I'll look forward to bigger and better things coming, and more templates and all the exciting stuff. But it's pretty good as it is, actually. Yeah, thank you.
Amazing. Thank you so much. Yeah, I really appreciate you joining us, Richard. We are almost at time. We probably have time for just a couple of questions, if there are any additional ones in the chat. So I'm just going to take a look. From my end, I'd just be curious to understand, maybe from both of you, if there has been any specific patient feedback that you've got since you started using at all.
No, not personally at all. They're aware of it. No one's really. People do look at their notes now, don't they? So I think I'm on a safer footing to say what's written in your notes is actually what was said by you in the consultation or said by me. It's more likely to be a reflection of what happened than not. But no patient, I've had no negative feedback or concerns about it at all, really.
Good. Perfect. The QR code on the screen, I just want to flag this goes to our WhatsApp channel, which is purely for Accurx Scribe. So hopefully kind of the discussion in there will be useful for one another to like help gather insights, any feedback, any tips on how to use Scribe. Any questions that you have, please just do feel free to drop them in there. There's lots of people from our team that are in that WhatsApp channel as well, so anyone else can help support any questions that you do have once you've got started. There are a couple of questions I can see. I think they're all directed towards Accurx. As we're at time, I'm going to just download these questions and make sure we get back to you with the responses. I don't want to run too much further into people's lunchtime or whatever you've got going on after this. But just want to say a huge thank you to everyone, both our guest speakers, Miles, and all of you for joining. Hopefully this has been useful. Please do feel free to just keep reaching out to us. You can use customer.success@accurx.com with any questions that you might have. And looking forward to seeing how everyone gets on with Scribe over the next few weeks. As I said, there will be a follow-up webinar, which will be more so around clinical safety and governance. Look out for the invitation to that. And thank you all very much. Appreciate it.
Smashing, thank you.
Recording will be shared. Thank you all.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.